Sad to Be Rich, revised by me in my journal. We're on part 6 now. Attitudes that stand. See, you must live. Procrastination, the opposite of deciding, is a common enemy that practically everybody must conquer. You will have an opportunity to test your capacity to reach quick and definite decisions when you are ready to begin putting into action these principles. Be quick to decide, slow to revise. An analysis of several hundred people who have accumulated fortunes disclosed the fact that every one of them had the habit of reaching decisions promptly and changing these decisions slowly, if and when they were changed. One of Henry Ford's most outstanding qualities was the habit of reaching decisions quickly and definitely changing them slowly. This quality was so pronounced in the founder of the American automobile industry that it gave him a highly respectable reputation. It was this quality that prompted him to continue to manufacture his famous Model T, although others urged him to change it. His firmness of decision yielded him a fortune before any change was necessary. Make sure your opinions are your own. Keep your counsel by requiring your own decisions and following them. Take no one into your confidence except the members of your mastermind group, and be sure in your selection of this group that you choose only those who will be in complete sympathy and harmony with your purpose. You have a brain and a mind of a brain. Use it and reach your own decisions. If you need fact or information from other people enabling you to reach a decision, use those people, but you will probably make those instantaneous requirements and an intuition that you have, and you will secure that information you need quietly without disclosing your purpose. Do it. There is nothing in this world that ever springs spontaneously perfect. Creation and evolution are cosmic laws, and there are human laws too, and no matter what we want, have, or do, we just are the beginning before we can finish it, and passes into the fruition. God helps those who help themselves. 1,000 unseen forces are awaiting to assist those who know what they want and then fling themselves fearlessly in pursuit of their goals. Divine command. Do it now is the watchword of success. The watchword of success. Do it now. Do it now is the watchword of success. It is common sense to give ourselves a legitimate amount of time to get ready for anything. The bigger our endeavor, the more time and thought it commands. Wise people guide and cherish it as their most precious possession, training themselves to allow it to urge them and through most impossible accomplishments. Those who are wise and powerful are at the top of their own mountain of success, are those who at first the path of the mountain and then pass, taking their own lives and then race to the success. Finding ourselves, knowing what we want to do, giving ourselves a legitimate time for perfecting our ability to do it again. This is the law of success. Do it now. We may have only 1/10 of our perfection when we start anything, but practice makes perfect. And out of the very crudest material will come a gem, polished by use into illuminating brightness. It is better to do and fail and profit by the wisdom born of failure than to sit down unexpressed genius and a trophy from disuse. In the past is spent, and the future is now, and today is yours. Hold the fast, precious, and the treasure is within you. You gotta help yourself. Begin to make your own life and become positive. You begin to meet more positive people and more constructive circumstances. This explains why God helps those who help themselves. When you begin to help yourself, which means to make the best of what you have in yourself, you begin to attract to yourself more and more of those helpful things that may exist all about you. In other words, constructive forces attract constructive forces, positive forces attract positive forces. It is only necessary in the beginning to possess the interior riches, that is to take control of what it is in you and to proceed to use it positively with a definite goal in view. Guard your interior treasure. They who have control of their minds have great riches already. They are already successful, and if they continue as they have begun, their success will soon appear in the external world. Thus, wealth that existed at first in the internal only will take shape and form in the external. This is the law, and that is unfailing, and every man or woman on the face of this earth can apply the same most satisfying results. The reason why so many succeed only to a slight degree is found in the fact that only a small fraction of the power is applied properly. The positive and constructive use of the power of the mind with a definite goal in view will invariably result in the advancement, attainment, and achievement. But if we wish to use that power in its full capacity, the action of the mind must be deep. In addition to the right use of the mind, and as the full use implies the use of the whole mind, the deeper mind fields and forces, as well as the visual mental fields and forces, it is necessary to understand the subconscious as well as the conscious. Your forces, this is your forces, and this is your forces, and this is your forces, and this is how to use them. Wealth. You'll acquire a particular quantity by constantly acting a particular way. You become just by performing just actions, great performing great actions, brave by performing brave actions. And it has been said perhaps over and over again that we are all more or less creatures of habit. Undoubtedly, there is much in this statement. Both habit forming and habit breaking have their origins in purely mental processes. Realize that in every case, to be a master is by far more profitable as well more satisfactory. It rests upon each one to decide whether he or she will become master. It depends upon the direction in which we set our forces and how persistently we follow the road upon which we set foot. Facing the right directions is the main thing. If then we have a backbone and stamina and a fair degree of good cheer, which is pursued persistently will lead to a merry heart all along the way, there can be at one outcome. The key to every man is his thought sturdy and defiant through he has a soul which obeys, which is the idea after which all facts are classified, which ever may we look, we find that thought is at the bottom of all progress, all that is desirable in human life. As without is simply a matter of sequence. If you just follow the elemental law of cause and effect, all natural. That we have the power to determine what types of thought we entertain and live with is one of the most tremendous facts of human life. It is a great determining factor. It was that able writer who dealt with the mind processes in their relation to life. James Allen said, "A man can only rise, conquer, and achieve by lifting up his thoughts." Action is the blossom of thought. There are certain types of thoughts and emotions that may be called the natural, the normal, the God intended, since there follows in their train only good. Let me repeat that. Since there follows in their train is only good. Among these are hope, faith, courage, good cheer, love, sympathy, forgiveness, joy, and peace. There are positive and uplifting and body-building thoughts. They seem to act upon the life forces within, so to stimulate or even to restore, to maintain harmony. They stimulate the circulation and the process of nutrition. They make both for mental and bodily health and strength and vigor. Commanding figures. The commanding figures in life do not fear. Give time to them, seeing the ideal of which you would actually actualize or attain to, and are then setting into activity strong, definite types of thought forces that are hourly and even instantly working for you along the positive lines you are going. Public. The happiest heart that ever beat was in some quiet breast that found the common daylight sweet and left to heaven the rest. 2 things. There are 2 things, say a thoughtful writer, which will make us happy in this life if we attend to them. The first thing to never worry about. What we cannot help, never worry about. What we can help, never worry. The law of correspondence is wonderfully exact in its workings. We are what we repeatedly do. Never fear. It is not the amount we spend that counts, but the way in which we spend it. When we spend our dollars knowing internally that it is impossible for us to become penniless, we then go into a position which will not only let our dollars go, but it will bring us another over the same line of transference. It is not only in the doing, but in the being opulent that we get the power. We must know how to look behind the things created, notes and coins, into the energy that creates. And this recognition helps steadfastly bring life into the relation with higher lines of attraction. Wealthy way. Practice fortitude and faith and dwell constantly upon the eternal justice, the eternal good. Try to realize by more and profound comprehension of your inner life and the laws that govern that life. You will be building your house upon the rocks of the eternal, and that is required for your happiness and well-being will come to you in such your own time. The way to true riches is to enrich the soul by the acquisition of virtue. To acquire true riches, you must enter the sanctuary of God. Then you will know the end. It is within you. It is that state of consciousness that has risen above, and universal and internal principles are realized. Virtue. This is the God state of consciousness. It is the sanctuary of the Most High. When by long strife and self-discipline you have succeeded in entering the door of that holy temple, you will perceive within unobstructed vision the end fruit of all human thought and endeavor only with good constructive thoughts. Those who are outwardly in adverse conditions can still, let me repeat that, okay? Those who are outwardly adverse in those conditions are still rich even with virtue, and they are truly rich in the midst of all adversity. They are surely traveling towards prosperity, and abounding joy and bliss await their coming. If you would take the time to become and permanently prosperous, you must first become virtuous. Rather aim at self-perfection, make useful and unselfish service the object of your life, and ever reach at hands of faith toward the supreme and unalterable good. Wealth is a drawn to a good steward. Let's see how many more we have. We have a few more to go. We're gonna make it. Excuse me. All right. Wealth is drawn to a good steward. You say you desire wealth not for your own sake, but in order to do good with it and to bless others. This being your real motive and desiring wealth, then wealth will come to you. For you are strong and unselfish indeed, if in the midst of your riches you are willing to look upon yourself as a steward and not as an owner. Your real desire is to do good. There is no need to wait for money before you do it. You can do it now. This is the very moment. And just where you are, if you are really so unselfish as you believe yourself to be, you will show it by sacrificing yourself for others now. No matter the conditions, there is room for self-sacrifice. The heart that truly desires to do good does not wait for money before doing anything, but comes to the altar of sacrifice and leaving there the unworthy elements of self. And it goes out and breathes the breath of blessings upon neighbor and stranger. As the effect is related to the cause, so are prosperity and power related to the inward good. Power is released by freedom from poverty. Your true wealth is your stock of virtue, and your true power the uses to which you put it. Rectify your heart and you will rectify your life. Love, purity, gentleness, meekness, patience, compassion, generosity, self-forgetfulness, all these are wealth and power. As the adverse conditions are overcome, and an irresistible and all-conquering power is evolved from within, and those who succeed in establishing the highest virtue bring the whole world to your feet. And here we understand how happiness depends not upon the outward aids or possessions, but upon inward life. Put upon the garment of universal love, and you will then realize your inward heaven, and it will be reflected in your outward life. Those who set their feet firmly upon the path of self-conquest, who walk aided by the staff of faith on the highway of self-sacrifice, will assuredly achieve the highest prosperity and will reap abounding and enduring joy and bliss. Fill out your own pink slip. This is an example of law of action and reaction. The action is your thought, and the reaction is the response of your subconscious mind. Rich. To reach this plane of seeing and feeling opulent and creating an opulent atmosphere by allowing yourself to rise high in thoughts where everything speaks to, it changes, and it is abundant in its supply. If we must only have a few dollars and must spend it, we must learn to let it go as if we had 1,000 behind it, for we really have, which we know, the truth of the divine supply, and consciously unite ourselves with it. We must be opulent, more will come in unknown lines of connections as we send the feelings of being opulent. Divine supply. There is this certain avenue of transference to every life. It is the utmost important plane of divine transference. We who come into this abundant supply come under the laws of plane of divine transference, and our banker is their universal mind. On the higher plane, this power of seeing opulently is exactly a law on the plane of divine transference. Under the law of divine transference, we have, and we hold forever the plane of divine transference is the universal recognition of supply, and the working out of our own mind and our own and others' rights on the plane of giving and receiving. On these higher spiritual and intellectual planes of consciousness, the lines never cross nor tangle, but each one runs directly home to the creator of self. Over the same line on which we send out our inspired desires, there presses back to us the answer to our prayers. These are the results of divine transference you can give. Listen to the chickens in this familiar story. Listen to the chickens in this familiar story. A woman who had a great love for poultry decided she would go into the chicken business, so she rented a small piece of land and gave up her time to the production of the finest possible breeds of hen. During her years with the fowls, and gained a great deal of practical knowledge, in relating some of her many observations and experiences, she said, "Chickens are just like human beings. They have the same desires, and they make the same mistakes, and suffer from the same reactions of their own ignorances just as we do. I never feed the chickens, but I find something use of a lesson for myself. Whenever it is time to feed them, I take a huge pan full of many good things which chickens like, placing it in the center of the hard pen and calling them. Some of them are near, some of them are far. And the sound of my voice and the call, they all come running to the pell-mell. Some of the hens which are nearest the pan grab a mouthful out of it and run away to the corner of the yard. Others, seeing them with a piece of food in their mouths, chase wildly after them, totally ignoring my call and the full pan of food just before them. Before many minutes, all the hens are out in their farthest corners away from the food, fighting, scrambling, and tumbling over each other in their attempts to secure a morsel which was in the mouths of the few, entirely unconscious of the big full pan of supply waiting within easy reach. Isn't this true with humans? Someone gets a little supply out of the great universal pan, and the blind beside them begin to struggle with them to get possession of their little bit without going straight to the universal source itself, which is always waiting full and free for them to come and take. The universal good awaits our return with the same natural law that awaited the hens. The hens got through struggling, and no one had anything. The pan was still standing, waiting to supply in full the hunger and wants of those found on their way back. I have to call them back many times before they satisfy themselves from the pan and not from the bits they wrestled with each other.